The hidden history of 15. Famous landmarks. You thought you knew, you've seen the photos, you've walked the grounds. But what if I told you the most famous places in the world are hiding secrets, deep, strange, hilarious, or just plain shocking? Welcome to the hidden history of the landmarks you thought you knew. 1. The Eiffel Tower, France. You know the Eiffel Tower. It's the selfie king of Paris. But did you know that this 300-meter iron giant was once the most hated thing in France? When Gustave Eiffel built it for the 1889 World's Fair, critics called it an eyesore, a metal asparagus, and a tragic lamppost. Over 300 artists and writers signed a petition to tear it down. But the tower was never meant to be permanent, seriously. It was only supposed to stand for 20 years before being dismantled. Imagine Paris without the Eiffel Tower. So, how did it survive? During World War I, the French military realized this ugly tower made an excellent radio antenna. It jammed German signals and even helped the Allies track enemy movements. It basically went from cursed artwork to military hero. And then, it stayed. So next time you sip coffee under the tower, just remember it was one vote away from being scrapped for metal. Viva la Iron Lady. 2. The Statue of Liberty, USA. The Statue of Liberty, symbol of freedom, strength, and French engineering? Yep. America's most iconic monument was actually built in Paris, not New York. She was a gift from France in 1886 to celebrate friendship and democracy, but here's where it gets messy. To ship her across the Atlantic, they had to break her into 350 pieces, pack them into 214 crates, and send her over by boat. And get this, she almost didn't make it. A storm hit the ship Isère during the journey, nearly sending Lady Liberty to the bottom of the ocean. But she held on even without her torch. But she sat in pieces on the dock for months. Why? Because Americans were like, cool statue, but who's paying for the pedestal? Nobody wanted to foot the bill for her base. So newspaper tycoon Joseph Pulitzer launched the first ever crowdfunding campaign in the U.S. Over 120,000 people donated. Most of them gave less than $1. And boom, pedestal funded. Finally, in 1886, Lady Liberty rose to full glory. And she's been standing tall ever since. 3. The Colosseum, Italy. The Colosseum, Rome's grand arena of glory, gore, and wild engineering. We all know about the gladiator fights. But did you know the Colosseum had a retractable roof? And they used to flood it for full-blown sea battles? Built in 70 A.D., this beast of an arena could hold up to 80,000 people. That's almost a modern sports stadium. And those Romans? They weren't just spectators. They were expecting a show. Enter the Valerium, a giant canvas roof stretched over the top like a massive sunshade. Sailors operated it using rigging and pulleys, because who better to handle ropes than guys who sail ships? Now here's where it gets bonkers. For certain events, they flooded the arena and staged naumachii, real naval battles with actual ships and fake islands. Just imagine, you're a baker in Rome, showing up to watch pirates fight in a giant puddle. Of course, that didn't last forever. Eventually, they added underground chambers, the hypogum, for animals, trapdoors, and gladiators popping up like toast. And fun fact, it stopped hosting events around the 6th century, but it took earthquakes, looters, and time to turn it into the ruin we see today. Still, it survived over 1,900 years, and it's not just standing, it's legendary. 4. The Great Wall of China. So you picture the Great Wall of China, one long, snaky stone dragon cutting across the mountains? What if I told you it's not one wall? It's actually a tangled mess of walls, towers, trenches, and even natural barriers built over 2,000 years by dozens of dynasties. That Great Wall you see on postcards, that's mostly from the Ming Dynasty, around the 15th to 17th centuries. But the first walls, try 221 B.C., under Emperor Qin Shi Huang the Emperor, who also had a thing for life-sized terracotta armies. These walls weren't just built to keep out invaders. They were power moves, tax checkpoints, border controls, and sometimes just monuments to imperial ego. And get this, if you include every section, it's over 21,000 kilometers long. That's more than half the Earth's circumference. Oh, and no, you can't see it from space with the naked eye. That's a myth. You're more likely to spot a city highway, but it is one of the most ambitious feats in human history. A wall made of blood, bricks, and legends. 5. Chichen Itza, Mexico. It's ancient. It's iconic. It's got 365 steps, one for every day of the year. You're looking at El Castillo, the crown jewel of Chichen Itza, Mexico. But this isn't just a calendar in stone. It's a temple of science and a stage for sacrifice. The Maya weren't messing around. During the spring and autumn equinox, the setting sun casts a shadow down the pyramid steps that looks like a serpent slithering to earth. They designed that, on purpose, 1,000 years ago, with no laser levels, just brains. But that's not even the wildest part. Clap your hands at the bottom of the stairs. You'll hear a chirp bounce back at you, sounding like the call of a sacred Quetzal bird. Now, the dark twist. That massive ball court nearby, loser of the game didn't just get benched, he got beheaded. And many were sacrificed to honor the god, thrown into the sacred cenote, a deep sinkhole filled with bones and treasure. So, Chichen Itza is a temple of time, a scientific marvel, and even a blood-stained altar. 6. Christ the Redeemer, Brazil. Towering 98 feet tall, arms spread wide like he's about to hug all of Rio, Christ the Redeemer is one of the most iconic landmarks on Earth. But did you know he almost looked completely different? When Brazilian engineer Heitor da Silva Costa and sculptor Paul Landowski were drafting the designs back in the 1920s, the first idea was Christ holding a cross in one hand and a globe in the other. More superhero of religion, less come to me, my children. But that idea? Rejected. Too aggressive, not welcoming enough. So they redesigned him with open arms, symbolizing peace, forgiveness, and protection over Rio. And boom, the version we all know today was born. But it wasn't easy. Built on top of a mountain Corcovado, in a time before helicopters, every piece had to be lugged up by train and assembled like a giant stone puzzle, and the statue gets struck by lightning several times a year. In 2014, a bolt snapped a finger clean off. Holy shock therapy. But still he stands, tall, calm, watching over a city of chaos and carnival. 7. Mount Rushmore, USA. You've seen their faces, George, Thomas, Teddy, and Abe. Mount Rushmore, the giant presidential selfie carved into solid granite. But did you know there's a secret room hidden behind Lincoln's head? Sculptor Gutzon Borglum had big dreams. He didn't just want stone faces staring at you. He wanted a hall of records, a massive hidden chamber filled with America's most important documents. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, maybe even a copy of the Gettysburg Address. But Congress said, no, too expensive, too ambitious. But Borglum? He carved the entrance anyway. A tunnel 70 feet deep into the mountain. He died before finishing it. Today, the hall is still there, closed to the public, sealed off, but real. And that's not the only twist. The land Mount Rushmore sits on, it was once sacred to the Lakota Sioux, carved without their consent, on land the U.S. promised and broke that promise. So for many, this monument is also a symbol of betrayal. 8. The Pyramids of Giza, Egypt. It's one of the oldest and most perfectly engineered structures in human history. But the Great Pyramid of Giza might be holding secrets we still can't explain. Built over 4,500 years ago, it's made of 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing as much as an SUV, some even heavier. And guess what? It's aligned almost perfectly with true north. No GPS, no computers, just pure genius or something else? Most people think it's a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu, but no mummy was ever found inside, not even hieroglyphs, not a single royal inscription, a tomb with no body. And how did they build it? Theories range from ramp systems, water hydraulics, even sound levitation. Seriously, there are fringe scholars who think ancient people knew something we don't. And let's not forget the pyramid's original casing stones, polished white limestone that made it shine like a literal beacon in the desert. You could probably see it from space, 4,000 years before there was space travel. Whether it's ancient aliens, lost tech, or just mind-blowing human engineering, the Great Pyramid isn't just a tomb, it's a cosmic question mark, chiseled in stone. 9. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, Italy. Let's get one thing straight. The Leaning Tower of Pisa was never supposed to lean. Construction began in 1173, and after just 3 floors, it started tilting like a tipsy tourist. Why? Because someone forgot to check the soil. It was soft, uneven, and basically a swamp sandwich. But did they stop building? Nope. They doubled down. They kept going, even tried to build the higher floors at a curve to compensate. So if it looks crooked, that's because it actually is. Over the centuries, it leaned more and more until it was tipping at a terrifying 5.5 degrees. That's enough to make it fall, but somehow it didn't. In the 90s, engineers finally said, okay, this might actually fall now. So they pulled off a massive rescue mission. Soil extraction counterweights, cables. Basically tower Pilates. They made it stand straighter by 17 inches. But tourists love the lean. So today, they make sure it's stable, but still slightly wonky. Because let's be honest, perfectly vertical Tower of Pisa just doesn't sell postcards. 10. The Taj Mahal, India. It's the most romantic building in the world. The Taj Mahal was born out of heartbreak and nearly destroyed for profit. The year is 1631. Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan just lost his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal, after her 14th childbirth. Crushed, he did what any heartbroken ruler with unlimited money would do. He built a palace-sized tomb of pure white marble. It took 20,000 workers over 20 years, and materials from all across Asia. Diamonds, jade, calligraphy, symmetry. Even the tomb's echo was designed to whisper love. But here's the wild part. After Shah Jahan died, the empire wobbled. The British came, and in the 1800s, Lord William Bentinck reportedly considered auctioning off the Taj Mahal's marble, selling it like scrap. Imagine the world's biggest heartbreak story turned into floor tiles. Luckily, he didn't go through with it, probably realized destroying a wonder of the world isn't a great legacy move. Today, it's India's crown jewel, drawing millions every year. But remember, behind all that beauty is a tomb, a tragedy, and a warning. Never underestimate what grief or greed can build. 11. The Moai statues of Easter Island Rapa Nui out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, over 2,000 miles from any continent. There are giant stone heads. This is Rapa Nui, also known as Easter Island, one of the most isolated places on Earth. And those heads? Yeah, they're not just heads. They've got full bodies, buried deep underground. Some are over 30 feet tall, weighing up to 80 tons. And they were carved with stone tools. No metal, no wheels, no aliens, just human willpower and creativity. Created by the Rapa Nui people between the 13th and 16th centuries, these statues were likely meant to honor ancestors, protectors watching over their tribes. But the people who built them may have overused their island's resources, chopping down forests to move the Moai until there were no trees left. Famine, war, collapse. By the time Europeans arrived, the Moai had been toppled, and the once thriving culture was in ruins. But today, the Moai stand again, restored, respected, and still watching the sea, not just stone statues, but echoes of ambition, mystery, and warning. 12. Angkor Wat, Cambodia. What if I told you that one of the world's most jaw-dropping temples wasn't in Egypt or Greece, but in the middle of the Cambodian jungle? This is Angkor Wat, and it's bigger than the Vatican, the Taj Mahal, and the pyramids. Built in the 12th century by King Suryavarman II, Angkor Wat was originally a Hindu temple dedicated to Vishnu, but later on it was converted into a Buddhist sanctuary. So one temple, two religions, thousands of gods carved in stone. We're talking over 600 acres of intricate walls, towers, moats, and stairways. And it's not just big, it's smart. The entire thing is aligned with the solar equinox and designed like a cosmic diagram. Some believe it mirrors Mount Meru, the mythical home of the gods. Others say it hides secret chambers still unexplored. But after the fall of the Khmer Empire, Angkor Wat was swallowed by the jungle for centuries. Local monks stayed, but the world forgot, until French explorers rediscovered it in the 1800s. Today, Angkor Wat is not just Cambodia's top tourist site, it's on the national flag. Because when you build something this powerful, you don't just make history, you become a symbol of it. 13. Big Ben, UK. Let's get one thing straight. Big Ben isn't a tower, it's not even a building. Big Ben is a bell. The thing everyone calls Big Ben, technically, it's the Elizabeth Tower. This 96-meter Gothic beast was completed in 1859, rising above the Houses of Parliament after the old one burned down. Inside, a massive 13.5-ton bell cast with perfect precision that cracked after just 1 month. Classic British overachievement. So they rotated it, made it work, and boom, Big Ben was born. And that iconic bong? It's so distinct that during World War II, the BBC broadcast it across the world as a sound of hope. Even when London was getting bombed, Big Ben kept ringing. But Big Ben's not perfect. In 1976, the mechanism exploded. In 2017, it went almost silent for a 5-year renovation. Today, it's one of the most famous timepieces on Earth, and it doesn't even keep perfect time. It uses a stack of old pennies to balance the pendulum. So next time you see it, remember, Big Ben is just the bell. But it's earned a bigger name, because no one forgets that sound. 14. The Berlin Wall, Germany. Imagine going to bed in a free city and waking up trapped. That's what happened on August 13, 1961, when East Germany built a wall overnight, cutting Berlin in half. Why? To stop East Berliners from fleeing to the West. Because in the middle of the Cold War, Berlin was ground zero. West equals freedom. East equals surveillance, shortages, fear. So what did the East German government do? They called it the anti-fascist protection rampart. But really? It was a prison wall, concrete slabs, guard towers, razor wire, landmines, and even automatic machine guns. This wasn't just a wall, it was a warning. And people still tried to escape. Some tunneled under, some hid in car trunks. One guy even built a hot air balloon. Over 5,000 people made it, but at least 140 died trying. Then, in 1989, the unthinkable happened. The wall didn't fall. It was torn apart by the people. Sledgehammers, bare hands, cheers, tears. An entire city reunited. Today, the Berlin Wall is mostly gone, but the scars, they're still there. Graffiti, memorials, ghost stations, and stories etched into concrete that remind us no wall lasts forever. 15. The Sydney Opera House, Australia. It's one of the most iconic buildings on Earth, but did you know the Sydney Opera House was almost never finished? In 1957, a young Danish architect, Jørn Utzon, won a design competition with a sketch that looked like sails on Sydney Harbor. Stunning? Yes. Buildable? No one knew. Construction began in 1959 and quickly turned into a disaster. The roof design? Too complex for 1950s engineering. The costs exploded from $7 million to over $100 million. Deadlines? Missed. Again and again. By 1966, Utzon was so frustrated he quit and left Australia forever. He never even saw the finished building in person. The Aussie government scrambled, changed plans mid-project, and somehow miraculously pulled it off. In 1973, Queen Elizabeth II opened the Opera House with royal flair, and the world was stunned. Today, it's not just an opera house. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, an architectural icon, and one of the most photographed buildings in the world. So next time you take that selfie in front of the Eiffel Tower or visit the Great Wall, remember, you're standing in a story much stranger than fiction. Which of these blew your mind the most? And there are still more secrets out there. So don't forget to like and subscribe for more secrets.